I am expressing my gratitude for you taking your time to be here with me today as we kind of go through some of this information and discuss some things that I think are really, really important in regards to moving a whole community forward, a whole people, moving a whole people forward and progressing to the place where they are consistently thriving. That's in and out of education. Okay. So K-12 and beyond. However, whatever career, whether it's military, whether, whatever our people want to do, make sure they have the tools to do so. Okay. So I want to express again gratitude and thank you for being here. But we won't be long. I don't want to keep you long because you know what? It is a Tuesday night. So we all got things to do. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of get into the reason why I am putting this together. Part of my passion is to help African Americans seize opportunities that education affords them. And a lot of my work is around families and pushing children forward in the educational system, because for some reason, as I'll show you some stats in a little bit, it seems like Black children get left behind every time, and they don't matter how many dollars they throw at it. You have funds from the federal government, from state government, everyone wants to throw money at it, and it seems not to be closing that gap. That's maybe a phrase that you've heard before about closing the gap. And what does that even mean? When we're talking about closing the gap, they're talking about where the assessment levels or the test levels are for non-Black children at one level and where they are for Black children, and the gap in between. And typically it's a gap, and it's a large gap. And we're going to kind of talk about that today and maybe talk about some reasons of why that is and how we can actually help that. Okay. All right. Let's get started. All right. The name of this webinar: Overexposed and Undereducated, the Race to Save Black Children. All right. So the first thing that we want to look at when we're talking about where we can really measure our education level for our children, they have a National Assessment of Educational Progress, okay, the NAEP. And what this organization does is they create national assessments, and they take populations of people all around the country. So it's not a state test. It is not a localized thing. This is nationwide. And what they do is they get a great sample size of each subgroup, and they looked at those test scores and, of course, compared them to see if there's any disparities. Are there any similarities? Like, what's going on? What can the numbers tell us? Okay, so I want to pull these numbers from you. These are from 2022, as in last year, this test was taken. So this is post-pandemic. This is after, our students are missing a lot of school, for a while. This is after, we didn't know what education was going to look like. However, the trends tend to stay the same across the board when it came to the numbers. So again, this is from 2022. Now, this is for fourth grade reading across the country. This is broken down by race. All right. As you see, we have Asian Americans with the score 241, Asian Pacific Islanders 239, Hispanics 205, white 227, and Black 199. Dead last place. There's no other way around it. Okay, so there's a 28-point gap between Black students and white students, and obviously a 42-point gap between Asian Americans and Black Americans. Now, this should cause you to start thinking, okay, why is there this gap? Why is this thing even something that's happening? Why do we have such numbers, and why is there such discrepancy between the scores? Aren't they going to the same type of schools? Aren't they going to get an education? Isn't there a push to make education the same everywhere? Everybody's talking about cultural differences, and these teachers are getting trained on all these different things. Why is there such a discrepancy in the year 2022? Well, we will get to that. But before we get to that, I wanted to highlight that it's not only the reading scores that we should be worried about. We should also be worried about the math scores, which you will see have a very similar trend. Okay, you have Asian Americans that are scoring at a 259, Asian Pacific Islanders 224, Hispanic 224, white 246, and again, dead last, pulling up the rear, are our Black children at 196. Now, if you notice in both graphs that African American students are the only group scoring in the 100s. Though at the top of the 100s, it is still in the 100s. Every other group has passed the 200 mark except Black children. And we start thinking, how can we how can we explain that? How can we really just square it with what we're doing? I want you to know that it's not the school. As much as we want to blame the school, I'm a 10-year vet, and we can point out different things of where school can do better here, or the school can do better there. Teachers are not doing this, teachers aren't doing that. And I'm not saying that because I'm a teacher. Okay, so I'm speaking to you with my parent hat on. I got my mom hat on right now, right? Okay, I'm speaking to you as a parent. I'm speaking to you as someone who is noticing these things and understanding there is a clear line between what's happening at home and what's happening at school. Because remember, as the old saying goes, education is the great equalizer. All right. So this is no longer the 50s and the 60s and the years before that where stuff was segregated. So we can actually point out, hey, this is happening this school and this is not happening that school. Our kids are integrated. Our kids are going to school and they're getting the same opportunity. So why are they continuing to come at the bottom of the pool when it comes to these test scores, these nationalized test scores? Now, some people may bring up, oh, well, it may be the way the questions are phrased. Our children were born, most of them, the majority of them were born right here in this country, hearing the same language. Why is that a deficit? These kids have been in public schools since kindergarten. Why is there a deficit? They're being educated at the same rate from the public school setting. So what's the difference? The only difference between these groups are cultural and family values. That is it. If we want to nail down what's going on with the difference, this is all about home life, which is something I am constantly pushing, constantly talking about, and want to highlight for everyone who listens to me within the sound of my voice, wants to hear me, that it's all about home life. These math scores, these reading scores do not lie. They do not. As much as we want to point out different, they're not lying. The data doesn't lie. We are looking at a problem. It is a pure epidemic of educational crisis. And we want to make sure that we're talking about it in a way that maybe reshapes the conversation, reshapes how we think about this, reshapes maybe pulling the attention away from what's happening in the classroom, instead moving to what's happening outside the classroom, what's happening in those homes. Something that one of my pet peeves, if I may say, one of my pet peeves to talk about when people say, oh, that's a bad school. What is a bad school? What does that really mean? Because remember, a school, like a church, right? It's just a building. What makes it bad? Is it, not up to par? It's not up to code or something? Or what makes it a bad school? A school is just a building and it has people on the inside of it, right? And those people that are coming together inside are typically from a very similar neighborhood. And those similar neighborhoods, those people are from individual households, be it, whatever kind of household it is, being a house, apartment, wherever it is, those people are coming from families. So when you're saying someone or a building is a bad school, what you're really saying is that school is filled with bad people, because people actually make up the school. It's not the brick and mortar building. It's actually people that we're talking about. So I take quite an offense when people go, oh, that's a bad school. Don't send them to that school. Because what we're essentially saying is I don't want my kid, or I don't want to be exposed to those people. And we really have to take a look at our language with that, right? Okay, so instead of saying, oh, that's bad, let's look at what are some of the things that maybe these particular people are not doing in order to make sure that the school as a whole, the people as a whole, are thriving. Those are the things that we want to look at. Those are the things that we want to definitely consider when we're talking about bad school versus good school. Okay, so with that being said, I want parents to really focus in on this, or parents or anyone else who are dealing with children. Okay, children and African-American children at that. Before we get to fourth grade math scores, before we get to fourth grade reading scores, we were in kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. Before that, we were 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 before we get into school, right? So there's a lot of things that happened before this fourth grade math score, before the fourth grade reading score got here, right? We want to make sure that we're considering that time, because all these kids were experiencing life at the same time before this assessment was given to them. So I wanted to give a quick idea, a quick, maybe a catchphrase or an acronym that parents want to hold on to, because there's something that's important that we need to consider as families, and especially families of Black children who are being tested and the data is showing are scoring much lower than other subgroups. Some things that we really need to focus on at home. So I wanted to give a quick little acronym to kind of sum up some of the things that we should be doing. We want to follow the map. MAP. 1, make education the number one priority in your house. What I find with African Americans in general, when we start talking about us as a group, education does not seem to be the priority. Now, I talk about this in my book. We tend to make entertainment the priority, or some other type of art form the priority, or anything other than education. And we like to say that education is important, but what does that really look like in the home? How do your children know education is important to you? How often are we sitting down and doing homework with our children? How often do we allow the TV to teach our children? How long do we let the iPhones or the iPads teach our children? What are we considering education in our own home? Now, remember, from birth through 5 years old, you are the primary educator before your child typically steps foot into a schoolhouse, right? So a bulk of that education, we know that the brain develops, the majority of the development happens between that time period when they're with you primarily, not at their school. So the educational foundation that they have comes from you. So how are we making education the number one priority in the house? Are you checking homework? Are you creating learning opportunities with your home? Are you talking about school? And the conversations that you're having at home, are you making sure that education is the primary focus? Are you praising? Are you celebrating educational achievements in your home? Are you making it a non-negotiable? That is what I mean by making education the number one priority. It's education over everything, because it is the true key and the equalizer to whatever your children want to do. They cannot balance a whole lot of things at a young age. So instead of making them balance a whole lot of things, you can continue to be careful of how we add things to their life, be it sports, be it arts, be it whatever it is, playtime, games, whatever it is. We want to pull back until education is built as a solid foundation. Number 2, you want to ask the teachers for help. This is a kind of faux pas, a no-no for parents. As a teacher, I will tell you 10 years, this is my personal anecdote, from teaching at schools who were majority white and teaching at schools that were predominantly Black. Black parents tend to be the hardest parents to get a hold of. Let it marinate. I know you think I'm talking bad. Yes, you only been at a couple schools, Brittany. You only been in a certain area. This has been my experience and the experience of many colleagues I have that teach around the country. Black parents are extremely difficult to get a hold of. That means there's a breakdown in the school to parent communication, right? Schools are mandated to put out information for what your child is doing in school, communicating at a certain rate. However, there's not any mandate to make the parent interact with the school, right? Now, parents, most of us are not trained as an educator. So I'm a teacher, so I fall into that subcategory, but most of us are not, right? We have other jobs and occupations that we have given our life to. So if school is not your thing, if you didn't get trained to teach K through 12, I would assume that you would offer or allow someone to come help you. Now you have to solicit that help. So you have to be an advocate for yourself and primarily for your child. You have to ask teachers to help you know exactly what your child should be learning, when they should be learning, and at what rate they should be learning that information. Because if you cannot help them with things you are not aware of. So we have to make sure that we are call into school, call in. My golden rule for parent is set up some type of conference every 4 to 6 weeks, just to be on the roll of what's going on. If your teacher is not sending home information at least weekly with what's going on in that classroom, it is our responsibility as parents to check in, double check, and check one more time to make sure that you know exactly what's happening in that classroom. Now, here's the caveat. I know that gets difficult with multiple children, but that is a burden that we have to bear, because it is our responsibility to make sure that we are on the same page with the school. Don't leave it to the school to follow up with you. They should, But is it worth your child's education to toss it up in the air to decide if they're going to do it or not? We have to take control. We have to take lead as parents to make sure that we are asking the teachers for help. If you don't know, you keep calling, you get resources, you ask for tutoring, you ask for whatever you need to make sure that your child is aware. Okay, one thing that I say parents, Black parents especially, have to pride ourselves on is the teacher shouldn't be telling me my child needs help. I should be aware. If that child comes home with homework and I did my job of sitting down and say, hey, you make it happen. I may not be able to teach them the information because I may not know. And let me tell you, third grade math gets tricky. Say what you want, judge me if you want to. But third grade, it hit the fan for me. I was like, oh, what is this? I got 2 degrees and I'm messing all this third grade math up. Okay. So with that being said, they come home and they're doing their homework. Your job primarily is to make sure they get it done. Now, if they're doing it and they're saying, I just can't do this. This is hard. I don't understand this. Boop. Now, the parent's job to teach it, if you don't know it, don't force it. Your job is to ask the teachers for help. That should be an instant call. That should be an instant message. You know, most teachers in school have apparatuses where they have a messenger, Class Dojo, or Remind 101. They have these things set up in place to where you can communicate with them. Do that. Use those resources. Utilize that. My child needs help. They do not understand their homework. Okay, what that does is let the teacher know that your kid is trying, and it also lets them know that you are a parent who is concerned. All right. A lot of the times when we get into these situations, Black parents get kind of tossed to the wayside because we don't show concern. And I will tell you, put my teacher hat back on, and I will tell you, it is easy to push a kid to the wayside whose parents not going to care. Hate to be the one to tell you the truth, but that is the absolute truth. You want a teacher to be held accountable for your child, bug them, bother them, call them, because they're going to know at the end of the day, okay, I need to pay attention because I know I'm going to have to answer to this parent if I don't. I know I'm going to have to answer to the parent. But if you are not involved in that way where you're asking the teacher for help and you're showing concern, who knows what's happening in that classroom? You're not there for 8 hours a day. Who knows what's happening, right? So again, start at the top, make education the number 1 priority. Number 2, ask the teacher for help. And number 3, prep your kids for the assessment. This is, I know, maybe strange. Kids are taking tests. Do you know when the tests are? Are you once you ask that teacher for help, are you reviewing with your child? Because a lot of the time, since we didn't, 1, take care of the first step, make education priority, our kids don't care about the test and they don't take it seriously. 2, you didn't ask for help, so we don't know what the heck on the test, right? And 3, we're not preparing our kids to take the test. We are not completing the map, right? Preparing our kids, quizzing our kids. There's going to be conversations in the car. This doesn't have to take forever. You don't have to put together some elaborate plan to help prep for these assessments. You can just, by knowing it is, if you're just getting your child to talk about it, the studies show that just re-interacting with that information just for a couple of minutes that same day helps that child keep it concrete in their mind, right? Opposed to they learn something and then they don't see it again till it's around test time. All right. Just that extra time, you are boosting your child's opportunities, boosting their chances to actually do well on these assessments. So we can see that gap, actually close it. It's nothing that the school is going to do to close that gap. It's only the parents, when we follow the map, make education the number 1 priority, ask the teachers for help, and again, prep your kids for assessments. All right. Doing the check-in now, because I'm going really fast. Is everyone good? Let me get a yes. Oh, okay. Here we go. I'm sorry. I just popped in the chat. I was just talking. Okay, here we go. Collaborate. Hey, Mr. LaHaye. All right, collaborate with other subject teachers, parents. Yes, all that collaboration is so important. Okay, it is so important to build that team again, because I hate to use this phrase, or use this example, but I think that everyone can get this. It's kind of like the playing mama against daddy type of situation. Your child will exploit any weakness in that relationship, right? They will exploit it. So if mama's on one page and daddy's on another page, and they're just like, okay, well, I know mama will let me do it, but daddy won't let me do it. They know who to ask, and they know how to play. They know how to make it happen. All right. So make sure that you are saying, okay, the teacher's on one page, I'm on the same page as that teacher. So there's no getting around this homework that you thought you was gonna come home and tell me you didn't have, right? I'm already on it. I'm on it. Yes, create time to be at the school. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Create time to be at the school. Now, again, power parent method, what I advise for that is every 4 to 6 weeks is make sure you're doing some type of check-in, but plan to show up. Let those teachers see your face, right? Let them see your face. You are a real person, that somebody that's going to hold them accountable. Be at that school. That sends a strong signal to the teachers, but more importantly, your child. Like, oh, like this is a play. This is serious. Like my mom came here, right? She showed up here. So that's what you want to create, that environment to where everybody's on the same page, that collaboration, including the child, right? All right, we good there? Gonna move on? We rolling now. We rolling. All right. So again, these test scores, closing that gap is a parental home situation, guys. It is not a school crisis. It's a home crisis, especially for African-American students, right? And the way we do that, the way we help close the gap, we follow the map. I wasn't even trying to rhyme there. That's dropping bars. All right. Are you ready to move forward? Let's keep going. The next thing I kind of want to talk about is that was the undereducated part. Now I want to talk to you about the overexposed part. All right. I want to talk about our children culturally being overexposed. All right. Found this image. My principal actually showed me this image during a planning situation that we had with teachers, and I thought it was phenomenal. It is heart-wrenching. It is very detailed, and this is what's happening to our children. I would say back in the day, right, when they step outside of our home. However, with I should say the invention of cell phones, right? But with the population of the cell phones being literally in everybody's hand, they don't have to leave your home to be exposed to absolute nonsense 24/7, all day long, 365. It's constant. It's nonsense all day long, right? They're having to fight all these different distractions, and they're having to weigh it with school. Now, I always use the example when we're talking about children choosing the right thing to do is broccoli and candy, right? Broccoli, we know, may not, it depends on how you cook. I ain't gonna judge your cooking right now, but it depends on how you cook. Broccoli for a child is not going to be their first go-to. Now, nutritional wise, right? It'll be the best thing for them out of the two options. It will be the longer lasting, have longer lasting value out of the two options. But it takes a while, and it takes an acquired taste, something that you have to learn to really appreciate. Meanwhile, baby candy, it hits you right when you get it, right? Kids don't have to learn to love candy. It's an instant high. It's an instant rush, right? It's instant pleasure. And so when we're talking about the difference between broccoli and candy, we have the same with the distractions that our children face each and every day. Our children are more exposed, because of the lack of eyes and the lack of community around each child. I know this phrase is played out, it's overused, it's all of the things, right? But it takes a village to raise one child. Just one child. It takes a whole community to raise one child, because if you just have one set of eyes on a child and they go out into the world and they're on their phones and being exposed to this world where they have all these different things that are coming at them, they don't really stand a chance. God bless them, right? Because they don't really stand a chance. All these things are exciting. Our children are overexposed to sexual content, to violent content, to street culture in general, to alcohol and drugs at a higher level. We have to protect our children. Now, notice this has nothing to do with the school. Now, over the years, we have taken school and taken teachers and said, instead of, just being responsible for teaching math and science and social studies and ELA and language arts and English, right? Instead of just doing that, you also now need to be a counselor and a nurse and a pastor and a mother and a father and all these things, right? All these things together that you have to do. And what happened to the fact that they're supposed to just be teaching content. All the other stuff that teachers are supposed to be doing nowadays are really things that should be happening within your village, the people that you surround your child with on a daily basis. Now this is my teacher hat back on, and I step in my classroom, and it's a daily battle for me. So I'm the teacher they love hate, because they love me because I love them, and I think they know that it's important for me to develop a relationship with them. But number two, they hate me because I am the anti-phone lady. Put your phone up. I don't want to see no phones. I'm writing you up. Everybody getting written up. Put your phones up. Put your phones up. And it's because if you start watching, and I have a little bit more access than you do of just kind of seeing the stuff that they're absorbing every day, my God, for the lack of better phrases and just being real with you, it's trash. It is trash 24/7. And they walk around with these AirPods on, and they're constantly listening to, I'll just say, questionable lyrics, right? So this is on repeat. All the sex, drugs, sex and drugs, sex and drugs, sex and drugs, sex and drugs, on repeat all day long. Images, sex and drugs, sex and drugs, sex and drugs, sex and drugs, all day long. And then we go, hey, here's me, read this book. They're like, no, right? And if they don't have the educational background, it's not going to happen. And I can tell a clear difference between students who have a foundational background of education in their home and students who do not. It is not hard to see. Even the kids that want to come to school and play fake thug, right? Play fake gangster, just to impress folks, because that happens a lot too. You can tell that they have an educational background right in the classroom. And the students who don't, they struggle. They struggle tremendously. And by the time I'm a high school teacher, by the time they get to me, it's a wrap, right? Because their reading level is so behind where it needs to be that I might as well be giving them something in a different language. All because they spent most of their time fighting these vices in this image, right? They spend time growing up eating the candy, and now they're struggling. And it's all because the village didn't do their job of protecting the child from overeating the candy, from consuming too much of the sugar, right? Or any of it at all. And making sure that, going back to our first acronym, MAP, they didn't make education a priority, right? They didn't ask the teacher for help. They weren't prepping them for these assessments. Instead, they were engaged in these vices, and they were engaged in the sugar. And that is a cultural thing. I talk to my students all the time about the music choices that they make. And it's just personal story. I talk to my friends. I say, you know what? I listen to some pretty trash music too. And we may all be able to say, yeah, I did too. Probably a hand raise, an amen in the chat, right? I listened to some pretty questionable lyrics too as a kid. And I knew all the lyrics, and I knew all the dance moves and all of the things, right? All of the things. But the difference is my mom, as a single parent, baby, did not play about school. So there was a balance, at least. So I had a foundation, even though I can go to school and get with my friends, and we put together our little cuss word combinations. This is what kids do, right? They go try to live this different life outside the home. But I knew, and it was built. That foundation of education was built, and it was solid. And so, with that being said, even though I may have strayed, there was always something to come back on, right? There was something to come back on because my mom put a village in place. Now, and I want to talk especially about the Black village, because this is me working a little tricky. The number is about 75%. 75% of Black children are born to single mothers. It is what it is. Those are the numbers. So it is extremely, I cannot press this enough. It is extremely important to make sure that we are doing our best to control the environments, right, that our children are in. We are building that team. We are controlling what's going on with our children. We are controlling what they're watching. We're controlling what they're listening to on the daily basis. We got to control. We have to almost be like a counterculture ninja, right? Like karate and chopping down negative images of them, negative words about them. I'm getting to that point now in my life where, I'm looking, I'm judging music, and I'm wagging a finger. Like I'm to that point now. Like this is bad music, when I know, like, I can probably recite some pretty questionable things from my own teenage years, right? And my own childhood at that, right? But we have to be at the point now where we're saying, really question, what do our children have on repeat? What is my child learning about themselves? What is my child being set up to imitate? Okay. And this happens at, we kind of made a joke when my children went to daycare. There was a child that knew a good bit of the lyrics to WAP. And we won't go into that. If you don't know what that is, just Google it and don't say you got it from me, right? So we're talking about significantly young children who are listening to this music and they know the words, but these are the same children who could not read you Cat in the Hat. We could not get through Dr. Seuss stuff, right? But they know these lyrics and they're imitating these movements. So we have to question, as a culture overall, what are we allowing our children to listen to and absorb? And when you look at other cultures, this is not common, right? Listen to other cultural music and look at other cultural music, music and movies and images. It seems to be our people who are constantly, for the lack of better phrases, y'all can always count on me to be real, debauchery, right? Just flat out debauchery. And our children are eating. It's the candy. It's fun. It's catchy. It's risque, right? They're lashing onto it. And if we as parents, family, and part of the village are not there like blocking and saying, no, this is not okay. This is not what we listen to. Those are not the words we say. No, you won't be outside hanging with whoever. No, they're too old for you. If we're not out there doing those things, the culture, like in this image, is going to surround and collapse upon our children. They cannot value education when the culture does not value education. So it is our job as Black parents, as Black mentors, to set up a situation to where they don't have to fight that alone. Right? They don't have to do it. They don't have to be in a space where because they're going to lose, y'all. They're going to lose. They're not equipped. Developmentally, they're not equipped to make that decision yet. So we have to be in place to make that decision for them. All right? We have to do that. And so, I'm an acronym queen. I didn't say that first, but I loves me a good acronym. So I got another one for you. All right. So we had MAP earlier when we're talking about how to get those scores up, how to make sure that we are creating an educational foundation for our kids. Now, how do we fight culture, right? How do we make sure that our children are set up for success when it comes to absorbing the better, I shouldn't say good, better images of themselves, better sound bites about themselves, opposed to the negative stuff that's out there, right? So here we go. Y'all know I love a good acronym. Y'all gonna probably laugh at me. What are we gonna do? We are gonna take control, right? We are the parents. I know I just feel like I have the Matilda image in my head, like I'm big, you're little, and this is how it's gonna go, right? We have to take back control of our homes. We have to take back control of our children. We cannot let our children be for the streets, though they may want to. Right? They may try to choose this life. We have to do our best to take control. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm a big believer philosophically. We do not own our children, right? We are here to manage them and guide them and lead them in the space that the time that they have with us, right? But we have to do that better, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't make anybody do anything. But while they're little, while they're in our grasp, that is when we have to take control, build that educational foundation when they're young, counterculture them when they're young, and create a value system that you can be pleased with. And that's going to help them thrive as they get older. Okay. So C, converse with your child. As basic as I know this sounds, as absolutely basic as I know this sounds, talking to your children creates the value and moral compass within them, right? If you don't talk to them, you don't know them, right? And as if you can think back with me to your own lives when you were children, if you can go that far, but at least preteen and teenage, if you go back that far, remember, you probably lived a separate life than you did at home. Shout out to the ones who, kept it the same. But the rest of us, I'm guilty, created this own identity outside of the home, right? And if we are not conversing with our children, you're going to miss it. They're going to live this double life. And if we don't take control of that, we have no idea what they're absorbing. And if we do not talk to our children, we do not have time to instill in them our values. our moral compass, right? We have to take control of that. We have to give them something to stand on, right? Even, don't want to take it biblical, but I'm gonna take it biblical. Raise a child in the way they should go, right? So when they get older, they do not depart from it. Even if they stray a little bit and go exploring, that foundation is still there. That is still something they will remember and say, "Ooh, I know this is probably not right. I know I'm not probably supposed to be doing this," right? You have to converse with your child. Conversing with your child gives you vital information, right? You know if they're liking somebody. You know if they're being bullied. You know if they are struggling in an area. My husband, I love that he does this. When the children get home, he asks them the first question. They're already really ready for this. He's like, "What's your high? What's your low?" And that's when the children will tell him, "Okay, what was the highest part of my day? What was the best part of my day? And what was the part that wasn't so great? Did something happen that I really didn't love, or something that kind of made me sad, or something that just like made me angry?" And by getting that information, we get sucked back into the world. We send our kids away for at least 8 hours. That's if your kid doesn't do like after school programming, right? They're gone the whole day. By the time we get them, it's like feeding, shower, bed, right? And that's 5 days a week. So if you're not making a conscious effort to converse with your child, you're going to miss those cultural things that they're soaking in. And baby, trust, believe, they're soaking in. I can't tell you how many times my kid told me about cuss words in the elementary bathroom stall. I know, whatever. But if we don't converse with them, you don't have time to go, "Oh my gosh, it's terrible." Man, when you see stuff like that, you got to remind yourself like, this is not my type of language. I don't talk like that. I have such a great vocabulary that I don't need those words. I got other words I can use. And you build that with them just by having that conversation. So converse with your child. All right, moving on. Oh, observe the content with which your child is allowed to engage. Hold my purse, Jesus, right? This is probably one of the most important things that we are dealing with as parents, as people, as mentors, as people who are dealing with Black children, right? Observing that content. Y'all, as much as we may like social media, most of you probably heard about this webinar through social media. The social media can be great in the right hands, right? The content in which our children have access to, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, that might be an old people thing. So the students tell me that they don't do Facebook. That's for old folks. But all these different different social media sites that they're people from around the world, around the country are creating content, and our kids are just absorbing it every day, absorbing more and more and more. And it's like a rabbit hole. I don't know if you know how algorithms work, but whatever they are liking and watching, consuming, the algorithm, whatever social media, they're going to get more of it and more of it, more of it, more of it. So if it's a song they like that has absolutely questionable lyrics to it and they like it, they're going to send them more songs like that. And now all day long, they're hearing values that don't line up with yours, right? You have to take control. I was speaking with a parent, and you guys might appreciate this. I'm working with a parent of a teenager, and she says to me, "Well, Miss Bell, I don't really feel comfortable taking her phone because, her dad bought it for her." Now, at the time, the parents were not living together. And she said her dad bought it for her. I don't really feel comfortable taking her phone from her. And I in my mind, I lost it, right? Like, what do you mean? That's your house. I wanted to go down that road with her, but I kept it calm. I kept it together. And I was like, if your child brought any other questionable, like drugs, into your home, right? And they maybe bought it with their own money, or they got it from, dad, hopefully not help them purchase it. Would you allow that child to have that particular material in your home? The answer, of course, will be no. So anything harmful, I don't care who buys it. I don't care if they buy it themselves. If it's harmful, you have to make sure that you are not allowing your child to engage with that particular thing. You have to make sure that you are creating boundaries, parameters around the stuff that they're able to absorb every day. So if you have cell phones, and if you want, hit me in the chat. I have a whole little paper that has QR codes about whether you have an Android or an iPhone, how to basically put parental locks on your kid's cell phone. If you choose to give them a cell phone, you have to make sure that you go about it in the most safe way, right? Because if they're getting this content that's counter to the values and morals you have, you're going to lose them. I'm going to absolutely lose them, especially at a young age, because once that stuff gets concrete, it's hard to pull back. right? Once they start going down that road, it's really, really hard to make a U-turn. You got to think of it like a highway. Once they start getting engaged with content, it's like going at 90 miles per hour down a highway, down an interstate, right? It's going to be hard to turn around. It's going to be hard to get them to exit off. All right. So keep that in mind with this content. All right. So remember, observe the content with which your child is allowed to engage. All right. And negate negative behaviors that your child may witness, especially from adults. This is a big one. This is where I have to challenge parents. Kids do not listen to you. They don't listen to us. They watch us. They watch us. They watch everything we do. And I know, let's go old school, right? Because I'm pretty sure everybody on here was told exactly what I was told. And that is just the law. You do as I say. I'm pretty sure y'all can finish that. And not what I do. Yeah, sounds good, right? Absolutely sounds good. Complete foolishness. Complete foolishness. That sounds like a thing we can say as adults to kind of remind us to be like, oh, well, yeah, we can do whatever we want to do. No, I'm an adult, so I'm grown. I can do this. My house. I paid. Okay. All true. All fair things, right? Your child is still watching you. So it's hard for them developmentally to hear you say one thing and watch you do something completely different, right? And this may not be from you. It may be that you need some help, and grandma and uncle and cousins are helping to watch and create boundaries for your children. Be careful who you allow your child with, because if you allow them to hang out with older cousin, an older cousin is any streets, right? And they're doing things and they're involved in behaviors that are not something that you agree with, value or morals. You got to be careful. You got to negate that. That may mean you can't go stay with auntie. You can't go spend a night over your cousin's house because we're not on the same page. You can't go with whoever. You can't be around this group, right? Because I would have to negate those negative behaviors. We do not do those things that they are involved with. Okay, we have to be very mindful. I know this is very hard. Remember, I said 75% of our kids are in single parent households. Therefore, those parents need help. So that may mean you're staying at another house. You're staying at grandma's house, and grandma's tired. So grandma let you go play with whoever because, look, be back inside when the street lights come on. But we don't know what negative behaviors are happening out there that their children are involved with. I see it all the time in the classroom. Right? I see it. I hear it. I hear the stories. Because the kids will tell you. They'll tell me anyway, right? I hear all these stories. I'm going, oh my God, your parents do not know that. I bet they want to, right? So we cannot either perform behaviors from ourselves that are contradictory towards against what we're saying, and we cannot allow them to be around other people who are not holding up the same behaviors. And if they are, it kind of goes back to the you got to be talking about that thing. This is not okay. When they did that, oh wow, that happened. Wow, let's talk about that. Let's explore that. Let's get to why that's not the best behavior and what that can lead to. Right? But you want to negate it as much as possible. All right. Because once you're exposed to it, baby, you're exposed to it. And it's hard. Again, going down that highway. It's hard to turn it around. It's hard to get them off that sugar once they get some. Okay. Moving on. T, take time to highlight positive role models by what you like in a person or in the content, right? Go kind of back to talking. It's easy to talk about, when somebody asks you what you want to eat. It's hard to say what I want. It's easy to say, I know I don't want Mexican. I know I don't want this. I know I don't want that. But what do you want? So find role models for your children. This may have to be an active search. You may have to, whether you gotta go Boys and Girls Club or talk to whoever, you have to find positive role models and highlight what you like in that person, that content. Praise that thing. Man, this person is so honest. Man, this person is so, I don't want to say well-behaved. This person is so intelligent. This person is so easy to talk to. This person, whatever the positive thing is, it's great. Oh, this person has great content. These are people they're funny, but they're funny in a way that kind of supports the things that we value and that we support. Highlight those people and those things for your children, because just as easy as it is to take out the negative, you got to highlight the positive. Don't just show them what not to do. Show them what to do. All right. You have to take that time. All right. You got to invest in those moments that help your children see this is what Black culture is supposed to look like. Right. This is what, I don't know what they're doing, but this is what it's supposed to be, right? And we take understanding your history. True story. Took students to a museum today. Took them to, we have a local museum at our college here at Austin State. That's an African American museum. Phenomenal if anybody wants to take a visit to that. And when I tell you, I'm just gonna be honest, that the goal was to have a scavenger hunt. Now I'm thinking when I go in there, I'm like, all these role models, all these historical people that made a difference, that did something special for us, right? And my white kids they got their scavenger hunt paper and they're going. They're going, they're finding the answers, they're working together, collaborating. You go in that room, you go in that room. Then you get to our African American babies, headphones, pants sagging, not doing the activity, completely disinterested in what's going on, because the role models that they think that they have are not positive. So I think it's hard for them to notice and recognize when something's good for them, opposed to it's when it's a candy thing, but it's something that's bad for them in the long run, right? So we have to take time. If you're not working on that history and those role models at home, be it that it could be a person of the past or a person of the present, right? Whoever it is, if you're not taking time to highlight those things for your children, the world will. But they're probably not going to be role models that you're going to agree with in the long run. All right. So take the time to make sure that you are highlighting those positive role models by the what you like in a person or in the content. All right. We're moving on. Recite positive songs, sayings to promote fun and learning. I know this is targeted more towards smaller kids, but this can also work for older kids. Y'all, Gracie's Corner, they got a whole hip hop songs like I Wish, right? If those of you know what I'm talking about, look it up if you do not know what I'm talking about. Gracie's Corner. There's another one called Jules, Jools. I mean, songs that you want to listen to, right? Like songs that you wouldn't mind being on repeat. It's not the old school ABCs 1, 2, 3 days a week song that kind of like, oh my God, if I hear this song one more time, I'm gonna run my head into the corner. It's not that Coco Melon mess, right? It is culturally appropriate, culturally relevant music that kind of gives that kid that sugar feel, but it's fun and it's learning, right? Positive songs, positive affirmations. To recite all those things to your kids on the daily basis. Tell them how awesome they are. Tell them how smart they are, intelligent they are, beautiful they are. Because the world is going to create what cool is if you don't. They're going to shape for your child what fun is if you don't, right? You share those positive things with them. If they say you see you kind of getting into it, they will too. Even your older kids, right? Invest and pull them back in your world. Because again, they'll go listen to their songs with their friends, right? But pull them back into your world, right? Pull them back in. And so you can have that time to promote those learning things. Positivity. The world is negative. And it's extremely negative with a black face on it. Right? We could look at the music, look at this. A lot of it's negative. All right. So if you do not create the positivities with things that you're saying and the songs that you're presenting to them, you might as well call it quits. All right. Remember that stuff is on repeat, and eventually it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy. They hear it. They'll believe it. They'll be it. All right. Oh, occupy their free time with people and things that allow their interests and positive behaviors to align. This is a big one. Again, this is a parenting thing that's going to take time. What are your children doing? How much screen time are they having? How much time are they having just to be engaged in stuff that's not aligned with the behaviors that you want them to have? Right? Excuse me. How much are they able to fill up their time with nonsense, right? Now, you do not have to now. I will be with confession time. I went into cray mode at one point with my children where I was trying to schedule like every moment of every day, and I wore myself flat out, right? And I have a husband here, so and I still wore myself out with a teammate, right? So I can only imagine as a single parent trying to do that. It's too much. Do your best to pull some of that free time after school time and watch a YouTube video together, right? If you're going to let them be on screen time, that aligns with their interests. What do they like to do? Goes back to talking to them. My oldest, he's a bio kid. He loves science, right? He loves animals and learning how things grow and different organisms. He loves that stuff, right? Now, if I gave him the chance just to do anything all day, he play Roblox all day long. No questions asked, right? You wouldn't even hear him no more. He's just playing Roblox. But I can occupy some of that free time, like, hey, let's sit down and watch. I found a cool video about sharks. He'll be all about it. He'll be all about it because I'm all about it, right? And it lines up with his interest, right? It lines up with what he wants to do. Positive behaviors, whatever that looks like. Follow in directions. What observe that. Occupy their time with opportunities for them to follow directions. Being a scavenger hunt or whatever it is that you want to create. Occupy some of their free time with that. Again, do not stress yourself out. Again, self-confessed stressor outer right here, right? So those of you who are in my club, amen to us. All right, we need a break. Give yourself a break. Don't overdo it. But think about some of that time, even if it's like 2 hours a week, 30 minutes Monday to Thursday, that you are aligning with their interests, occupying some of their free time with things that you want them to do. That also things that they're going to want to do because it aligns with their interests. All right. Last but not least, look for opportunities for your child to mimic their role models. All right. If your child is into science, how can we put them in a STEM program of some sort? Right? How can we get an online class that kind of building robots? How can we put them in front of people they like? If it's sports, how can we get them into opportunities where they're able to mimic some of those things, right? If it's a singer, how can we get them in opportunities that, again, allow we have to look for opportunities for our children to mimic their role models. That's in behavior, that's in whatever talent it may be, that's whatever the positivity is. Allow your child to mimic that and praise them when they do, right? Praise them when we do. That's part of the village. So I know you're thinking you can create all these things by yourself. We can't. So find people who are already doing these things and put your kids in their presence. Simple as that. Simple as that. All right. This idea of taking back control, right? CONTROL. It takes a lot of effort. That's where we get back to. Parenting takes a lot of effort and time. If we want our children's test score to thrive, if we want them to have an educational journey in general that thrives, right? We want them to have these opportunities that will completely change their life, right? Completely change their life and set them up to a situation to which they will be successful. Give your kid a chance. That's what I'm asking. I'm asking you to give your kid a chance. I'm going to stop sharing that right now. Give your kid a chance. And these are some of the things that we can kind of go back to, like Lynell said, yeah, those core values. Yes, you say go Bible. Amen. Go Bible, right? So we want to be in a situation where we are setting our kids up for success. And God knows, y'all, this is hard work. This is not easy. It's just not easy because we work. We're tired ourselves. We have our own ambition and goals. It's a lot. It's a lot. But when we made the decision to have children, we kind of have to remember that we made that decision and now it's time to go. They need us. We cannot take off. We cannot choose ourselves before we choose them. They need us, right? They need us. And the goal is that when we look at Black children and we look at their education, we look at, them culturally, we look at the kids in the street. I know you guys are probably seeing the same stories I am. Black children are killing each other. Just flat out there shooting each other, right? They're robbing cars. They're just out there being reckless, absolutely reckless. And on top of that, the test scores are plummeting lower and lower and lower. And we want to make sure that we want to talk about the school in this instance. We want to say, well, the schools need to do this and the schools to do that. I would like to say that there is a missing piece. Book plug. And that missing piece is parents, right? I believe this so much that I've authored a book, right? It's giving parents the same information and much, much more on how we combat these cultural crises, because it's multiple, right? Educationally and culturally. We have a role as Black parents in education. All right. So I have done over a decade in the classroom within within school systems, and I see on the daily basis the struggle that Black kids have. And we want, as much as we want to blame the school and the teachers for what's going on, the missing piece is at home. It's at home. If we can correct as a group, as a unit, as a village, as a community, some of the things I spoke with you today about, and all the other things I have in this book, it's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer. We can completely fit. It's a core belief of mine that those scores I showed you today completely can be flipped on its head in a matter of a K to 12 cycle. The kids who are in kindergarten now, following principles, our Black parents stepping up, our Black community stepping up and following the principles that are in this book, changes the game. Those numbers change instantly, right? So we want to make sure that we are doing our part in making sure that we are executing our roles as parents. All right. So I want to offer this to you. I'll put the link for the book. If you would like to purchase this book, I will put it in the chat right now if that's something that you are interested in. Um, and I will be happy to get this book over to you as quickly as possible. Now, my only ask of you is that you do not keep it to yourself, right? You share the information. You get with somebody, y'all all order it, and you make sure that you talk about these things and we share this information. So I want you to be sure that you are aware of all these things. I am super grateful that you joined me. I hope that I was able to give you some information tonight that was meaningful, that was impactful for you. Hopefully you picked up something or either got confirmed. Hopefully, all right, I affirmed you in what you were already doing so I can be your cheerleader. Go, 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 go. You can do it. You're doing great. You're crushing it. And we're all doing this together. So if you are the missing piece, as I believe that Black parents and families are, please make sure that you are one, talking to each other, right? Because we got to do this in group. And two, if you need the resource or access to me, definitely get the book. I got plenty of resources in there and plenty more to come. Okay. Thank you. And I will be signing out. Oh, wait, well, I'll actually wait until make sure anybody has questions. I'm sorry. I was like, clearly, look, ready to go. All right. I don't want to get too late, but I will stay and ask any questions if anybody has any. Again, this will be recorded and I'll try to send this out for anybody that wants to go back and review or share this out to anybody that they think, hey, I know somebody that I wish was on right now that was watching this. So I'll make sure that we put it out there. You can always check my website. I'm trying to constantly put new things on there for parent resources. That's what Power Parent is all about. Just providing parents with these resources. Yeah. I'll wait a couple minutes, make sure everybody's good, and we will go from there. Hashtag control with the muscle. Yes. Hashtag control. That's right. Oh, Charmaine, excellent. I'm so glad. Oh, thank you, Whitney, for inviting her. Awesome. 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 I'm so glad that that is something that's happening. Yay. All right. See that people are starting to log off. So, of course, I have access. Y'all know, hit me up on Facebook. I'm pretty sure. No questions, but thank you much for taking time. Oh, no problem. Thank you for joining me today. I will again, you guys know where I am. Keep me up on Facebook. Some of you have my number. I don't mind giving it out because baby, I'm here to help. All right. Well, that is all. God bless you and take care. And until next time, don't be the missing piece. Here we Bye-bye.